This is Mr. Smith, and today we're going to talk about good passwords. But before we talk about good passwords, we gotta point out some bad ones. These are all really, really bad passwords, including the word password as your password. I hope I don't have to explain why that's a bad idea. Essentially, these are all commonly used passwords. Simple words, phrases, names and birthdays, popular people out there, things like that. These are all things that are used so often that when a hacker tries to guess your password, or your kid brother or sister tries to guess your password, those are the things they're going to go for first. So, including those is a bad idea. Now, this right here, you might think, well, this is more secure because it's numbers and letters, but it's not so random. People do this often enough that people who are trying to guess passwords will also do this, where they'll say, oh, well, what if I put a 4 instead of an A, because a 4 sort of looks like a capital A, or a 5 instead of an S, or a 0 instead of an O, because people type that by accident all the time anyway. So don't do this either. It's slightly more secure than just writing the word password, but it's really still not that great. So there are other things you can do. Now, here's just one of them. If you have a really long password, it's going to be more secure. Even if it ends up being a little less random, length trumps short random. No one's going to guess Mr. Smith is super awesome. I don't even guess Mr. Smith is super awesome. But, that might be too long. And it's still a bunch of common words, so it's pretty easy to guess. But what if we did something like taking the first letter from each word? If we wanted to be really sneaky, we'd pick the last letter from each word or the second letter from each word. But let's go with the first letter from each word. So M-S-I-S-A. Mr. Smith is super awesome. Now this is really short, and shorter passwords are easier to guess than longer passwords. There are computer programs that'll just go through and guess every number and letter in existence, and the shorter it is, statistically, the faster it is to crack it. So we need to do something to make this be longer. Well, what we can do, because remember, length trumps short and random, we could just add a bunch of stuff at the end, like MSISA, and then a bunch of zeros, 6 zeros or something, or a bunch of ones or twos, or the letter A repeated, or the letter G repeated, or if whatever you're using that's requiring a password allows it. Some do, some don't. More special characters like question marks or periods or exclamation points. It will make it more random and harder for a computer to guess it, and harder for a person to guess it as well. Now you could also space these in between, like this here. This is the same length as this up here, but this ends up being just a little more random, so this might make it a little bit harder to guess, but both of these are good. This is even better because it's not the same one repeated over and over again, so it should make it harder to guess. So that works out pretty well. So these are all simple ways you can take something that's relatively easy to remember, like a sentence or a passphrase. It could be a line from one of your favorite songs if you wanted it to be. Taking the first letter from each word or the last letter from each word, throwing some extra stuff in there, spreading it out, and then suddenly your really dumb password of the word password, or 12345, or QWERTY, or Bieber, or whatever, can be replaced with something that's a little bit longer, a little more random so far as anyone else would be concerned, because really, who would guess that this stands for Mr. Smith is super awesome? I mean, that's kind of dumb. And you will be more secure because of it. Also, you'll be able to remember it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.